I've done this formatted planning session every year for years, and it's perhaps the number one most important task I do to set my entire year up for success. I'm going through it again this year, so I thought I'd document it and share it with you. Success in any realm is just dependent on executing the right behaviors at the right time in the right way for a long enough period of time until you end up having what you want. By the end of the video, you're gonna have a bulletproof framework that's gonna have every action that you need to do to result in the life that you want, that you dictated for yourself. Step one is to begin with the end in mind now. Take a second with me. Imagine you're going to a funeral of a close family member or friend. You pull up to the venue, you walk inside, you look around, you see the faces of your family, your friends, they're full of emotion. And you walk up to the casket to pay your respects. You look down into the casket and you suddenly realize that you are at your own funeral. You then sit down and you hear three speakers. One is your spouse, one is your best friend, and one is a business partner. The first step in this exercise is to write down what you hope each person would say about you. What was your character? What things were important to you? How did you spend your time? How did you show up for them? What kind of a human being were you? As you reflect on this, take a second to write down what thoughts came to your mind. This practice comes from the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's really the start for you figuring out your personal why. The problem today is that we have this immediacy mentality where instead of thinking in decades, which is going to be the extent of our life, we'll probably live to 100 years, we're thinking in months or minutes. Most of us can't even think about and empathize with our future self 12 hours from now. So we go to the party, overindulge, overdrink, and then wake up miserable the next day. The first time you do this, it's going to be fairly overwhelming. I've done this year after year, and what I've found is directional accuracy is better than perfection. It's overwhelming to think about every single thing that should be said. Step 2 is to think of your life 5, 10, or 15 years into the future, something that's significant but not so far out that you can't actually visualize it, and to write what your life looks like at that period of time. Write it in the present tense. So I'm going to be 42 years old in 10 years. My wife will be 39. I'll have a 14, 13, 12, and 10-year-old. Think about the age of your siblings. It's going to blow you away as you start thinking about everyone in your life 10 years from now. In the mindset, continue down that path of what does your house look like? What does your bank account look like? What have you accomplished over the last 10 years? What is important to you? What is your personality? What skills have you developed? And this is the time to be exorbitant. Think big, don't play small. I love the quote by Bill Gates when he said, "We overestimate what we can accomplish in 1 year, but drastically underestimate what we can accomplish in 10 years. So if you're thinking 10 years out, think big in every aspect of your life. Your faith, your family, your friends, your finances, your fitness, what you've done, where you've traveled. Think as big as you can possibly go. So now that you've taken the time to figure out the why, what's important to you, and then what your life is going to look like 10 years from now for you to be on track to have those eulogies ready at your funeral, the next step is to figure out how. But before we go into the how, there's one item that people always mess up on. They drastically underestimate the amount of activity that's going to be needed to reach their goals. And this is specifically true around financial goals. So go ahead and take a look at your financial goal and add a 0 to it. I know that sounds crazy. When I went from a goal of $20 million to $200 million, it completely changed how I thought about it, the kind of work I would need to put in, and the kind of people that I need to be surrounded by. So now comes the very simple to understand, but what is extremely difficult to execute, and why 99% of the people fail at this step. So as we think about this, I'd ask that you buy into the ideology that your outcomes in life are in direct correlation with your behaviors. I was sitting at a dinner a week ago, and everyone was sitting around and talking about our business owners and entrepreneurs successful because of them and their own efforts or because of luck and something that the world did for them. So step 3 is that behaviors equal outcomes. The way our lives are is because of all of the actions that we've taken over time that have added up to this point and are now manifesting themselves in our lives. So to figure this out, you goal chunk. So take your life in one topic, let's say your financial success. And 10 years from now, you ask yourself, what needs to be true 5 years from now so that I'm on track to hit my 10-year financial goal? And then after you do the 5 years, ask yourself, what needs to be true 1 year from now for me to be on track to my 5-year financial goal? And then from 1 year to 6 months to the quarter, so 3 months to 1 month to a week. And then you know what you need to do the exact next day in the next 24 hours to be on track to hit your week goal. So now that you have all of this clarity, what makes you tick? What's important to you? What kind of life do you want to have? And what are the actions that are going to lead to that life? Once you have all of that, the last thing that's left is that bulletproof system that's going to allow you to re-engage your intention every day, stay constantly motivated, and execute on these behaviors every 24 hours at a time. And the nice thing is that this bulletproof system only has 5 parts to it. Part number 1, you have your 10-year letter now. Read that every single day. This is going to remind you of your why. Step number 2 is to plan your next day the evening before. Step 3 is to track your progress. Step 4, conduct a regular weekly planning session. And step 5, create a group of friends that are all trying to better themselves. Having that report every single month is going to be such a value add to you. So this is a long exercise, but at the end, you're going to know exactly what you want, why you want it, and what you need to do to get it. James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, talks about the difference between winners and losers is not that they had different goals. The difference between the winners and the losers is that the winners were able to take the needed actions at the needed times in the needed ways.